Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. Today is a very exciting video because I have been waiting for these sets of wheels to be released for like 5 months, and finally Magene has done it. They finally done it. If you guys want to go super AERO, these are going to be the wheels to get. So today we are taking a look at the newly released Magene EXAR DB607 Ultra Pro wheels. Very deep wheels for all-out AERO. And so we're going to be going over the specs, the price, the weight, and then of course we're going to be taking these wheels out on the road so I can give you some of my first initial thoughts. Man, I already love these wheels. And then of course, shout out to Magene for sending these out to me for testing and review. So without further ado, let's get busy. Beautiful autumn day here in Chicago. A nice balmy 52 degrees, mostly clear skies. You can see Navy Pier out in the distance. Man, look at this bike. This bike looks fantastic. I love everything about this bike, the way that it's set up. So anyway, so as I mentioned in the introduction of this video, guys, this is Magene's brand new DB607 Pro, Ultra, whatever you want to call them, wheels. Now at this point, I have tested and reviewed 3 previous sets of wheels from Magene, and one of the things that they do very well is they offer very good quality. However, they do not charge a lot, relatively speaking, as far as their wheels goes. So these brand new line of wheels behind me, these retail for $1,199 USD, basically $1,200 USD. And what's interesting about this price point is I have been testing wheels from Magene now for about 3 years, and they have not increased their prices at all. So kudos to Magene on that front. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of the specs on these wheels. Now, as I mentioned, guys, this is the DB607 Ultra wheels from the EXAR line of wheels. These are Magene's flagship wheels, and these are the deepest set of wheels that they've just released. And like I said in the introduction, guys, I have been waiting for like 5 or 6 months for these wheels to release, and finally they are here. So some of the specs we have based on the designation DB607, we have 67 millimeters depth in the rear, 60 millimeters in the front, which means we have a staggered setup that should help with both aerodynamics and crosswind stability. We have these new generation of carbon spokes. So if you look on Magene's website, these measure about 5 millimeters in width. A lot of the brands, including like Windspace, they have been all adopting these new line of carbon bladed spokes. So that's what you get. Now, as far as the internal and external width on these, in the rear wheel, we have 23 millimeters internal. That's actually for both the rear and the front. External is for the rear, we have 30 millimeters external. And then for the front, we have 32 millimeters external. So these will be optimized for both 28 and 30C tires. I would have liked to see a little bit of a wider external width so that these could also be optimized for 32C tires, because that is the way the industry is going. Some of the other key details on these wheels is we have Magene's usual star ratchet hub design. This is DT Swiss. This is their previous generation of their star ratchet design. So it comes with the 36 tooth star ratchet design. And with that star ratchet design, you are able to upgrade the star ratchet. It comes with 36 tooth. You can upgrade it to, I believe it's 54. I have done that with some of my previous other Magene wheels. Some of the other features on these wheels, of course, we have, because these are the top of the line model, you of course also get ceramic bearings. Moving on to the tires, guys. Now I'm using my trusty Continental GP 5000 in the 28C variant with, of course, TPU inner tubes, and with the 23 millimeters internal width on these wheels, that essentially pumps up these 28C tires to about 30 millimeters. Now let's talk about 3 areas with these wheels that I'm not exactly excited about, and you can decide for yourself whether these are important to you. So number 1 is these rims do not come installed from the factory with tubeless rim tape. I reckon the reason why they did this is because included with the wheels, you do of course get a set of tubeless valves, and you also get these rim plugs so that if you choose to not install tubeless tubeless rim tape, you can use those plastic plugs into the holes, which is just an option that Magene gives you. Another point of criticism that I do want to highlight is the way these spokes are laced to the hub. So as you can see, even though these are using the latest generation of carbon bladed spokes, you guys can see here that the spokes are laced to the hubs with this side entry design. Now, again, guys, I'm not an engineer. There's videos out there saying why this could potentially be an issue, but in my own case scenario, I've been using Magene's wheels with this style of lacing. In fact, all the previous line of Chinese wheels have this design. I haven't had any issues. A lot of the more current updated line of wheels are using the style that essentially screws or twists into the hub rather than side entry. But again, those wheels that are now using that style of spoke lacing, those typically are going to run you at least $1,500 and up, but it is something to note. And the third area of criticism I have, now again, keeping in mind that these are $1,200, is despite the fact that these are using the latest generation of these wide carbon bladed spokes, I have found in my own testing of other wheels from wheel brands that are using these similar spokes, I haven't found these to be incredibly stiff. Now they are stiff, of course, because they are carbon bladed spokes, but I don't find them to necessarily be as stiff compared to some of Magene's older line of wheels that use just thinner carbon bladed spokes. I noticed this especially because Windspace, their current generation of hyper wheels, use these similar bladed spokes, and I don't find them to be as stiff as the previous generation of hyper spokes. So we'll see how this goes as far as my testing once I get a lot more mileage on these wheels. However, that might be a good thing for you guys out there, because if you don't want an incredibly stiff wheel, yet you still want some of the aerodynamic properties because of the rim depth, and then of course just the fact that these are carbon bladed spokes, that might actually be a good thing for you. One other small criticism that I forgot to make has to do with the color of this font and decal. Now, as you guys can see, the font color does match the skin wall colors on my Continental GP 5000. But if you have a bike color or set of tires, I would prefer Magene to use a more subdued color, maybe use something like a silver or black. But nonetheless, this gold color that Magene uses for their font and decal is to signify that this is the top of the line wheels that they offer on the market. It was just my imagination running away with me. Yo, I bet you didn't know your boy Patty got mad vocals. But anyway, let's go ahead and weigh out these Magene EXAR Ultra DB607 wheels. But before we do, huge shout out to the Temptations with the 25th anniversary. Bro, there are 2 records inside of here, and with such classic songs as My Girl, Since I Lost My Baby, Just My Imagination. As you guys can tell, I'm very excited for these wheels. I've been waiting for these wheels for like 6 months. So before we weigh this out, Magene advertises these set of wheels at 1,460 grams, plus or minus like 3%. So that does give us about 43 extra grams to play around with. And again, just to recap, we have 67 millimeters in the rear, 60 in the front, 23 millimeters internal, 30/32 millimeters external for both the front and rear, carbon spokes, star ratchet hub design, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and weigh out the front wheel. So the front wheel weighs, you guys can see that, we have 678 grams. 678 grams for the front wheel. And again, guys, we do have the latest generation of these wide carbon bladed spokes. Side entry as far as the spokes installation goes, point of contention. And then for the rear wheel, this is with Shimano free hub. We have 817 grams, 817 grams, which gives us a grand total of 1,495 grams. So that is within the tolerance based on Magene's website. But keep in mind that this does not come installed with the tubeless rim tape or the tubeless rim plugs. So let's continue. Now, thankfully, the majority of those quirks have nothing to do with performance at all, because at the end of the day, you're getting a modern wheel that has a lot of aerodynamic properties. It's using the current generation of wide carbon bladed spokes. You get a star ratchet hub design, which makes the hubs easy to maintain. You're getting ceramic bearings. You're getting wide internal width so that you can run both 28 and 30C tires no problem, because that's what they're optimized for. And you're getting all of this for $1,200. So when you start considering all the different wheels that offer all of these specs, you realize you're going to end up paying a lot more. And again, if you are someone that really wants some super deep depth wheels, because at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it or dice it, AERO is everything, at least here in Chicago where it's pancake flat. Several of you guys have asked me, when am I going to put together a video where I'm basically reviewing and comparing all of my wheels in a single video? And the reason why I've been waiting to make that video is for two reasons. One is because I've been wanting to wait until the weather gets a little bit colder once I'm indoors a little bit more often. But the main reason, which is the most important reason, is because I was actually waiting for this set of wheels to arrive for testing and review, because based on the specs and when I first seen the visuals on these wheels about 5 or 6 months ago, I knew that these wheels were going to be special, especially for the price. And I knew that these wheels most likely are going to beat out some of the other wheels that I have tested in the past, namely the Windspace Hyper D67s. But nonetheless, that's the reason why. So now that I have these wheels in hand, I'll be able to finally start putting together that video for you guys. Man, just look at the way these wheels look on my Tarmac SL8 Pro frame set. It looks so fast, and it is very fast. You figure the Tarmac SL8 has been tested to be one of the fastest frames on the market, and then when you pair it with a set of wheels that you have 67 millimeters in the rear, 60 in the front, it's gonna make for a very, very fast ride. And because the frame is very comfortable, even if these wheels are on the stiffer side, the frame is gonna help subdue and round up some of that harshness potentially when you are running a deeper depth wheels. So now that I've geeked over and I've nerded out over some of the specs on these wheels, let's go ahead and take this out on the road so I can give you some of my first initial thoughts on these wheels. Spoiler alert, these wheels are already going to be in my top 5 favorite wheels of all time. Free hub sound test on these Magene EXAR DB607 Ultra wheels with the 36 tooth star ratchet hub engagement. Now, some of you have commented asking the question, how come for all these freewheel hub sound tests that I do, why does it always seem like the wheels are imbalanced and that they kind of are wonky here on the stand? And there's actually two reasons why that always happens. None of them have to do with the actual wheels themselves. So number one, these GP5000 tires are a little bit wonky, and that is one of the reasons why it causes a little bit of imbalance when the tires are spinning. And the second reason is because even though I have my Tarmac SL8 clamped to the bike stand by the seat post, I don't have it on there extremely tight. So I leave it a little bit loose for that reason. Just, I don't know why, because I'm lazy. So if you see these wheels end up being a little bit unbalanced in this free hub sound test for the freewheeling, it's not because of the rims themselves, I assure you. But anyway, let's get busy. So let's continue. Guys, I already love these wheels. Now, of course, I can make an argument as to why a mid-depth type of wheel makes the most sense for most people, but at the end of the day, AERO is AERO.
What?
These wheels are freaking fantastic. On the flats with the tailwind, it's so easy to get up to speed. It's incredible. And that's something that you would expect for a wheel at this depth. And at $1,200, carbon bladed spokes, ceramic bearings, star ratchet hub design, these super wide carbon bladed spokes, these are extremely difficult to beat for a ready-made bike directly off of the market. While some of the other of Magene's top-of-the-line wheels in a more shallow depth, because those are using the previous generation of carbon bladed spokes, actually the new ones are probably using this similar style of carbon bladed spokes as well, but those in the past have been very stiff. It might be a little bit too harsh for the average consumer, but somehow with this new generation, Magene has found a way to sort of scrub off some of that initial harshness that you feel with these wheels. They feel fantastic. Yo. now that these are my fourth set of wheels from Magene and I kind of already know what to expect, I can already tell right away that these are going to be in my top 5 favorite wheels of all time. And I suspect that these wheels are going to end up being the final form to complete my Tarmac SL8.
For my final thoughts on this video, I'm going to keep it really short. At $1,200 and considering all the modern features you get on this set of wheels, these are absolutely a no-brainer. And for sure, they are a no-brainer if you are in the market for a set of wheels in that 60 to 70 millimeter depth in wheels. And when you start getting to these deeper, more aero set of wheels, you really don't have a lot of options on the market outside of these. Of course, you have the Windspace Hyper D607 wheels. However, the problem with those is, despite the fact that the depth with those wheels are identical to these, and despite the fact that those are also using 23 millimeters internal width, the external width on those is like 28.5, which isn't going to be ideal for 30C tires. And those hyper wheels, they're going to run you like $400 more than these. Another alternative would be the Elite Drive 65D wheels, yet another set of wheels that I have tested along with those D67 hyper wheels. The thing with the 65 Drive wheels from Elite is, even though you get 65 millimeters depth both the front and rear, those are still using sort of the outdated 21 millimeters internal width, even if the external width is like 30 millimeters. And another issue with those, or I wouldn't say issue, but just a quirk, is they are still using the previous generation of carbon bladed spokes. They're still on the thinner side compared to these Magene DB607 wheels. And as far as the hub goes, those are using sort of an outdated 6-paw hub design versus the updated star ratchet design. And again, those are going to be similar in price to these, but just some of the features on those Elite wheels are just a little bit out of date. So when you consider all of that, for $1,200, everything that you get on these wheels, guys, everything is modern. You get the wide carbon bladed spokes, you get the star ratchet hub design, you get a wide internal width, a wide external width. Magene really thought about everything. And again, the fact that they're doing all of this at just $1,200 and they have not increased their prices over all the wheels in like the last 3 years, these are absolutely a slam dunk. I cannot recommend these wheels enough.
So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Huge shout out to Magene for sending out these wheels for testing and review. And be on the lookout, as I will be putting together a list of all my favorite wheels of all time, ranking them from the worst to the best. Questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.